The majority of work that I have done in terms of building circles has been with people who are still very much connected with their family. And by family, of course, there's, that might be just their mother, or it might be, a big family with lots of brothers and sisters and cousins and, family all around. But I think the principle is the same. It's starting with who's there, really starting to explore who else might be interested, and really just starting to gently invite people into the person's life. We've done some work with a man who his only relatives are his parents. He's been quite damaged by the system. He has a very difficult reputation, and it's been a couple of years. This is not quick work to bring people into the lives of people with disability, but sometimes it's the trying to think, what does he enjoy? What are the things that he likes to do? Who else is doing that? And kind of just starting to make those connections. And what we're finding is that having something like a little circle or a little mechanism means there's something to invite people to. And so I guess what I'm trying to say there is that if you roll up to someone and say, I'm working with this man and he's got nobody, and would you make a life commitment to being involved with him? You'll probably get a, no, I don't think I can do that. But if you kind of talk to somebody and say, I know this man, he's really interested in football, and there's a group of us meet, and he's part of that, and we're part of kind of making sure he has a good time in his, in this particular neighbourhood. That's a very different invitation. That's a, come and contribute your small piece, and together we can create something. And then, in a sense, once that begins, who knows where a relationship goes? But the invitation and the asking is very important. When I started to ask people, I suppose we all have a fear that people will say no, and that, and even as a friend, or as a paid worker in someone's life, you can feel that kind of rejection. So I did have this experience. So as I worked with many people and invited many people with disabilities and their families, and invited, I guess over a period of some years, I invited a couple of hundred people. And what amazed me was that most people said yes. We found ways to ask, and some people even said, I feel so privileged to be asked. One woman said to me with tears in her eyes, I have watched this family for over 20 years. I've wanted to help. I haven't known what to do. I've been worried that I would intrude, and having something like this means, that I can now offer some support. But there was one situation where we kind of had a little group meet, and one woman rang me up and said, no, I really don't want to be involved. When you do all this planning and you make me feel really bad for saying no, and there's all this stuff up on butcher's paper, and I just, I can't be involved, I don't have any time, and what was interesting about that was that was one out of hundreds. Now, I think when we plan for this work, sometimes we think that's the majority, and the one it'll be the minority who say yes. But my experience with, a couple of hundred people was in fact the opposite. So I'm intrigued that I had that reaction only once.